to Jean-Charles Fouché, which is a Sony Eyes, independent certified expert. We have a range of 50 people across Europe which are using our product, using competitors' products. So they are neutral. They are not paid by Sony to promote Sony. They are just explaining and answering questions. And if you have any question to compare our camera to any other brand, feel free to ask to me or to Jean-Charles. Jean-Charles also did the training of a well-known TV drama in France called Plus Belle la Vie in Marseille. He's from Marseille, so he drove this week from Marseille to Brussels just for this workshop. And up to you, Jean-Charles.
Okay, thank you.
So feel free to ask any question during the presentation. We are here to ask.
Hello. So I'm Jean-Charles Fouché. I have nothing to sell this morning, so I will just explore with you the philosophy of the F-Serie of Sony. I am a user. I was for 20 years a cameraman, editor, and director, and I just bought FS7 for my school. I have a school in Marseille where we have bachelor and we are training data manager, DIT, cameraman, editors, and every time we are talking about the technology of Arri, Red, Sony, everybody is confused about the technical terms, about the philosophy, about how they can manage with one ID. I have an artistic ID, and the problem is, how can I make it inside the camera, inside the editing software? How can I make this ID real? So the problem is also coming from the manufacturer. For example, Sony. We see, for example, the F65 through 4K and beyond. So usually manufacturers are using the confusion of the technical terms just to sell or not. And the problem is we are in a world more and more complex. So if you see, for example, we are 4K and beyond. In red, 6K. Here we have now the term 8K sensor. We have RAW, MPEG-4, Cine Alta. So it's a mix of marketing, technical, psychological, a lot of terms, and we can become mad after mixing this. So it's a complex world, and just to let you understand how it's complex and how we can explore this world, just one example about the definition, because all the manufacturers put one sign, a big sign, I call it magical word, like digital is a magical word, like HD was a magical word. Now the magical word is 4K. But before it was, we were HD ready. Then came the 1080p. Then we got full HD. Then beyond HD. So it's growing, you know. Now we have Ultra HD, 4K sensor, 4K, beyond definition now. So you know how it's growing. 8K sensor, and beyond the limit of human vision. So it's like we are trying to reach Superman. We don't know, maybe 16K. And the problem is to manage everything. Is the quality a matter of K? Is everything turning around the K factor? So just to show you how complex is that world, I try to put in a page all the technical terms we need to understand, maybe, to manage the actual world of digital picture. Just to know how you feel comfortable with these terms. Can you just put your hand up, people who understand or people who feel very comfortable with 75% of these terms? Can you put your 70% comfortable? Okay. And people comfortable with 50% of this. Okay. And people who feel less comfortable, less than 25%. Just it makes you anxious to see all these terms. Nobody? Okay. So this morning I propose you just to explore this world, this complex world, and just to make it more easy to understand how to manage these cameras. So to manage this, I propose you a trip, the orange trip. So we will use the metaphor of the orange, how to produce oranges and how to produce picture. So the first thing you have to know when you're producing pictures is what is your philosophy. So if you are producing oranges, maybe your philosophy is to target the mass market. So maybe you will have the Monsanto philosophy. In Marseille, you can use agriculture raisonnée, so it's reasonable. You don't put too much chemical into your production. You destroy a little bit and you get a little bit of quality. Okay. Or your philosophy is to get all the information from the orange, all the quality, and you don't want to manage the quality, you don't want to lose anything. So this is your philosophy. Second point, this is your target. What are you targeting? Are you targeting HD screen? Broadcasting target? Are you targeting the web? Are you targeting the cinema theater? So what is your target? So are you targeting mass market, Lidl, or Match supermarket, or grocery, fine grocery, to have very high quality? So what is your target? Then another point is the quantity. So do you need a lot of oranges, or do you need a lot of pixels, or photo sites? Christian said photo sites and pixel. So for people it's very difficult to understand what is the difference between photo site and pixels. But that's why all the manufacturers put a big 4K sign or 8K now, just to say, I have the strongest camera, I am the strongest. So let's see. What about the quality? So what do you want from the picture? Do you want the juice, the water, the vitamins, sugar? So we will explore what are the quality of a picture. So if I say maybe I have two different targets, HD and broadcasting is a target with a special particular quality, and cinema is a particular quality. So we will see. What's about the processing in that cameras? So what are all the treatments we will put in the camera to get more and more details, more and more color, I don't know. And what is the container? What is the box where I will put all this information? So we can compare it with the lyophilization. So do you want to have very compressed product or a very high quality product? And at the very end, do you follow, or do you put any standards in your camera, or do you follow the quality with a special standard? So we have ISO, we have SMPTE, we have a lot of standards in cinema and video. Christians talk about ACES. ACES is one of the standards. So what is ACES about? What is ISO and the other? So I can compare the picture with the orange here. So very low quality, but I need something very weak and light to broadcast, to store, to edit. And there, up, I have the orange. So at the top, I buy oranges with no treatment, no process. And here I compress a lot. So we will have exactly the same process in that camera. We can have broadcast picture. So this is a perfect picture for TV. and we can have cinema quality. So what are the difference? And can I get a camera that will cover all my needs, all my artistic needs? So first I need to know what are my needs. So now if I show you exactly the same philosophy, the same workflow, because this is the workflow, what we call workflow, the path from the production to the diffusion. We have the bio quality of the picture. This is a negative, the digital negative file. We have what we call log and what we call rec 709. Can you put your hand up if you feel very comfortable with the term log? Just to know. Okay, thank you. So we will explore this. So this is my philosophy. Am I raw, log, or rec 709? My target. Is it a cinema theater? Is it TV broadcasting? Or is it web or transmedia? The quantity. Do I target Full HD, Ultra HD, 4K, or maybe in a few months or years, 8K? What about the quality? We have a lot of information about the quality of this camera and about Harry, about Blackmagic, and there is so many difference in terms of price. For example, I put there one Blackmagic. Last year I did buy a Blackmagic pocket camera from Blackmagic. It cost me 400 euro. And then I have a F5 and it cost 15,000 euro. So they are both doing RAW, they are both doing log. So there is a huge difference between the Blackmagic pocket camera and the F5, FS7, FS55. So where are the difference in the quality? But the quality, what is quality? About the processing, we have to know a little bit about the processing. Just a little bit to understand when I destroy the picture or not. And the container, it's about the file. We have a very bad word for file. We say format, but format, we don't know what is format. So I prefer to say, okay, let's talk about the container, the MXF container. And what about the codec? Many codec. So we will talk about this. And what about the standards? We have a lot of standards. Standard for cinema with the DCI standards, for the HD, for the 4K, for the new monitors, HDR, the ACs, 4K, Ultra HD, HDMI, HDCP, a lot of terms of standards. So it's a mess. So if I compare everything, if I show you the difference and the workflow, the problem is mainly in terms of hard drive and how to take my picture from the set to the laboratory and to the place where we will broadcast it. So if I have a lot of money, I can use the bio philosophy, but I will need huge hard drive and huge truck to carry it. But I will get this fantastic picture. So I show you no software is showing you the raw file, because when you are watching the raw file, you are watching all the file through the processing. But this is the real raw, okay? And you can see the Bayer matrix. So this is the perfect, the Graal, you know, the quest of the Graal. So the Graal is, maybe this is an ideal, but is there any row, the row, or many rows? So this is the row, this is a log, this is the rec 709. So I call it digital negative, interpositive negative, digital interpositive digital, and digital positive. So this is very cheap because of the treatment, because it's very compressed, very light to deliver. Log can be exactly the same price, but I will get a lot of information, so I can make my choice more in the artistic way. And then raw, some people say we can do whatever we want with raw, so we'll see. So the problem is in terms of transport, treatment, processing, and is the processing taking to the post-production, or is the processing on set? So we have now a new term, LUT, lookup table, and that's why now we have a specific on-set lab that will make LUT and will make picture directly on set, and we will talk about this camera and LUT. So what is LUT? The problem 20 years ago, we were facing the problem that when we were using computer, it was impossible to see the final product. So we need to wait until the end to see the final product. And today we call it also WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So there is a solution when we record the high quality RAW to have, for example, this picture on set, just to make the director and the customer not anxious about the information. If we show this, they will have a heart attack. If we show this, maybe they will be very anxious. Are you sure you understand how this camera is working? Are you sure you understand how the camera is working? Did you understand my artistic needs? So do we share the same languages to make a good picture? And maybe this is not the best picture, but this picture is very light and it's very easy to broadcast. So it's ready to broadcast. These two pictures are not ready to broadcast. You don't have to see it. I show you because I feel comfortable with you. I show you, but in fact there is no interest to show it, to get this picture. So we need something that will help us to record the best quality, all the information coming from the camera, coming from the sensor. But at the same moment, we need to make people comfortable, not anxious. So if people need security, we can show this through the viewfinder, through the monitor, but in fact we record this or this. And what is the difference here? There is a frontier here, a border. Here there is no color grading. I can broadcast this directly after the shooting. And here I'm in a world where there is a life after shooting. So if there is no life after shooting, from now I forget this. So I will focus on it. And some people say, yeah, okay, you tell me that if there is no life, no post-production after, I will get this picture. I say no, because now we have an on-set lab inside the camera. So this is maybe for news, for low-budget documentary. At the very beginning, Plus Belle la Vie was shooting using this setup, because they just turned the camera, like 80% of the Sony customers, or Panasonic, or Arri, or they turn the camera on and say, okay, I don't want to put one of my finger into the menu because it's too dangerous for me, I feel anxious. So I ask around me, okay, do you know the best setup for, okay, when I don't touch, I push the rec button. And I want to be sure that what I see in my monitor is what I will get during the broadcasting or during the diffusion. So what we're going to do, we're going to say, okay, maybe I can take the control of this. And it's not like before when we were in the broadcast production, where we had 1,000 of button level to push. Maybe I can just sit down in front of my picture. I can make my picture, say, okay, more contrast, more red, less blue. Okay, highlight, I want you to take the highlight down a little bit. Okay, the low light. Can you push a little bit the low light? Stop. I want not this, not this, and not this. My picture. So I take the control of this. So it's not the camera that is shooting, it's me with my artistic need. So this is a very strategic center now inside the actual camcorder. So this is very strategic, and if you are in a hurry, if you want to make news, okay, this setup, you turn the camera on, you can shoot it. If you have artistic needs, if you have an artistic idea, so you have to take the control of the camera. So the camera can be managed through 4 philosophies. I rec in RAW, and I just manage the stops, only the stops. Okay, no white balance, nothing, just the stops. Okay, no ISO. The camera doesn't understand ISO in RAW mode. The camera just understands stops. Or, if I have not the money for this big truck, I can get the RAW for poor people, what I call RAW for poor people. This is the log, and it's 80% of the cinema production are in log. RAW, you need to have a lot of money to buy this truck. So usually people say, okay, I want to do the same artistic work with RAW, but I don't have the money. So okay, I switch to log, and I will tell you how to manage the log. Okay, that's okay. But I need to hide this picture. I want to have my picture. So I need to take the control of this, or if I don't take the control of this, I will get the news pictures, which is very contrast and very saturated color. So if I want to have something personalized, I need to understand this. So that's what we call LUT. So LUT, it's a small machine inside the camera. Before, a few years ago, it was outside. It was a box. We call it a LUT box. I'm doing a workshop with Panavision in France, and we have a gamma box, which is a LUT box. It's not a gamma box, but the name is gamma box. So you see all the confusion. So in that camera, and in all the F-Serie of Sony, you have gamma, you have LUT, you can record RAW, you can record log, you can record digital positive. In fact, it's very versatile camera. For example, how many people are used to work with red camera, Epic or Scarlett here? Nobody? Okay. If you use red, you have no choice. It's a RAW camcorder. Okay. So here you have a very versatile camera. So I show you the different picture you can make. So if you record RAW, you will get this picture. But as I told you, you don't have to watch it, so you forget it. You can have this picture. So this is a log picture. Remember, don't watch it. If you forget it, we will see it after. And you have 2 digital positive in that camera. You can have the smallest setup, the simple setup, what we call Rec 709. This is the standard for HD TV. And if you want to have more detail, less saturated, if you have artistic idea and you want to make it concrete, Sony offer you what they call hyper gamma. In Panasonic, it's Cine-like. So every manufacturer has their super gamma. So it's a gamma with cape and with everything, a mask. And it will give you more detail, more color, wide space for color, wide space for contrast. And you can make your own gamma, own picture. So this is a very complex slide. In fact, when I was talking about what is the quality, how can we define the quality of the picture, I tried to put in one slide everything you have to know about what is the texture of a picture. So the texture of a picture is the bokeh, the depth of field. So is it focused or not? So it will depend from a lot of factors around. This is why, for example, Canon with the 5D managed to catch a lot of low-level, low-budget markets. The PK or sharpness, this is the feeling of the sharpness of the picture, with a lot of factors. The dynamic range, or the contrast, with the white, the black, the shadows, highlights, and the feeling that my camera can accept wide contrast, big contrast. At the end, I will give you my web site, and you can download all the slides, so you can have this slide. You don't have to write everything if you want to get the texture of the picture. So the dynamic range, then we have picture ratio, because now with the 4K and Ultra HD we have two ratio, one for TV and one for cinema, theater. We have the color space and the color feeling. We have the artifact of the picture, like the vignetting or the chromatic aberration, or flare. We have the frame per second that will give us the feeling of motion blur or strobe, and it's a balance between strobe and motion blur. So everything, this is the texture of the picture. So imagine if you are shooting in the raw mode, the digital negative. Maybe you can manage during the post-production that you will see with David, you can manage 80% of this parameter in post-production. If you switch into log, maybe you can manage 70% of all this information. And if you record in Rec 709, maybe you can manage 25% of this parameter. So what the philosophy are about? It's about the freedom of your artistic need. If you have a very precise need, or if you want just to have a very fast picture to broadcast it just after the shooting. So the solution is the LUT. We will talk about the LUT. So the shooting philosophy, it's summarized. So maybe we have artistic needs. Maybe if we are shooting for a magazine, low-budget documentary or news, we don't need artistic needs. We need to understand how sensor works a little bit to understand, for example, that the Blackmagic pocket camera is not a F5, F55 or FS7. We need to understand camera internal. It's not workshop.
Processing.
It's
Processing.
workflow. Sorry, not workshop. Workflow. We need to understand camera mode. So these cameras, as they are versatile, you have to become schizophrenic a little bit. You have to split your brain into two modes. So am I into the positive side or am I into the negative side? I am in the broadcasting side or am I in the fiction side? I will show you where are the menu in that camera. So we need to understand LUTs. We need to visualize the global workflow. Some people say, okay, I want to shoot with this camera because I like it. I like the picture. And they don't think about the life after the shooting. So when you think about the picture quality, you have to think the global workflow. For example, I have customer who told me, okay, I'm going to shoot with, I'm not focusing on red, but I have a lot of questions about RED. And they say, okay, RED is very low budget cameras, and the files are very small. If I shoot in RAW, I have a 2 gigabit file, and if I'm shooting with RED, I have 200 megabits per second file. So I divide by 10 the file. So I'm gonna shoot with RED. And I say, okay, but what's about the workflow? Did you ask the editor? Did you ask the computer power? Did you ask everything around the workflow? And then some people say, okay, so I need to have a global view of the workflow. I have to choose a workflow. So the philosophy, raw, log, or rec 709, and I need to have a coherent management of the bits. So if we have a question, I just give you some word about the raw and the term around the raw. When we shoot raw, the ideal would be to get all the information coming from the sensor. This is manufacturer speech. In fact, it's not the reality. All the manufacturers are processing all the raw. So there is no pure raw. There is no raw. It doesn't exist. So every manufacturer is compressing, is adding log, curve, is moving data information. For example, usually we say this camera are recording 16-bit raw in that camera. And for example, in Blackmagic, we say, okay, we have 12 bits raw. But this is the container. And nobody knows about how many information in reality they record. So if you analyze the information, in fact, sometimes you divide by 2, by 4, by 8 the number of samples into the raw file. So it's a place for marketing also. But what is not marketing is what we call dynamic range. So the manufacturers say, okay, we have 14 stops of dynamic range. So I prefer to have two different terms. The dynamic range is called technical term, and it's not talking about artistic. I prefer to speak about latitude range. What is latitude range? It's when David will push the low light, when he will take the highlight down. Do I get something for artistic picture? Do I get clouds in the sky? Do I get floor? Do I get skin? Do I get clothes? When I'm pushing information, when I'm color grading. So this is, for me, the term latitude. The difference is, for example, for this camera, they share 14 stops of dynamics. For me, it's around 10 or 11 stops of latitude. And for example, the pocket camera from Blackmagic, it's around, the marketing say 12 stops of dynamic range. If you measure it, if you push the stops, you get something around 8 or 7. So this is depending of the sensor and the quality of the electronic and processing board they put inside. So you cannot have the same raw, you cannot have the same log with 15,000 camera and from a 400 camera. So that's why there is no raw. We have very different raw. And we have also processing to take the raw file, information with black level, and then we have to build color into a target color space, into saturation, into hue, into definition, because raw is also a stock of definition. Raw is a stock of dynamic range. Raw is a stock of colors. Raw is a stock of a lot of things, of white balance. But I need mathematics to convert this into a nice picture. That's why We call it débailleur because the mosaic is a Bayer mosaic. And then when we débailleur, we have different processing. This camera, for example, has a different processing than this camera, because this camera is targeting the documentary, and it's 7,000 euro, and this camera is targeting cinema and fiction, and it's more 25,000. So the processing is different, the débailleur is different, and the texture, of course, is different. We will watch this slide very quickly, but just to let you know, if I compare two rows, so this is not the pure row, this is the row after a débailleur, with the rec 709, with a rec 709. And if I compare the row level from different row files, from different row manufacturers, I get very different information. For example, in that camera, when I get here this house, I am at 60% of the raw file here. Okay? And this camera, I'm at around 100% of the file. So that means this is a picture rec 709 coming from the débailleur of a raw file, but I have no more information here. And this is coming from a raw file. This is coming from the pocket camera, okay? And this is coming from the FS7, and I am here at 60%. So that means that the latitude range is not the same, and it's raw. The color is not the same, the saturation is not the same, the hue is not the same. So when we compare raw, we just imagine that every time you add a stop in the raw file, you get the double of levels, okay? So if my mid-gray is, for example, 50 here, this is the best, okay. The mid-gray in a raw file is around 5%. If I have a mid-gray at 60, that means that I have so many stops over my gray card. So my reference to understand the latitude range or the dynamic range is the Kodak gray. So my Kodak gray gives me one information. If I expose my camera at the right level on the raw, I have exactly the same amount of stops over and under. So for example, if this camera gives you 14 stops of dynamic range, if you expose your camera with the right tool, you get 6.5 stops over the gray and 6.5 stops under the gray. And then I can manage it. I can manage the overexposure, the underexposure, and with the F55, if I'm overexposed of 2 stops or 3 stops, no problem. In the with the F65, if I'm overexposed of 5 stops, I can get the information. So imagine 5 stops overexposed, and I get the information with clean information. If I'm overexposed with the mini Blackmagic pocket camera of half stops or 1 stops, I lose every information. So what is important to understand is when manufacturers are speaking about ISO or gain, in fact it's a matter, it's a way to say, okay, the camera has the best setup when she has the best dynamic range or the best latitude with the less noise. And this is what we call native ISO. But in fact it's not ISO, it's not gain. Because when we were using gain before, it was analog gain. We push the signal in the analog side and we got a lot of noise. Today, the gain is digital, and compared to the ISO, you take the gamma curve and you push the picture up you push the picture down, and this is ISO. So you just take one level and you push it to the next level. So that is very interesting, because this camera, when you are recording in RAW or when you are recording in log, in fact you touch nothing. You record exactly at the same ISO, and it's around 2000. It depends on the camera. For example, the F-55, the native ISO is 1200, and the others are 2000 ISO. But if you push the ISO to 10,000, as it's digital, as it's coming from the RAW or the log, at 10,000 ISO you have no noise at all. So it's very comfortable, because in fact you are pushing ISO only for monitoring, but in log or RAW you push nothing. And it's very different from the picture Canon, Nikon and the others, the still camera. They are not working like that. When you are pushing ISO, they modify the analog gun, and you get RAW modified by the ISO. In cinema, we don't touch the gun. Okay? So this is the moment where you send sugar to your brain, because this is the slide you don't have to miss. So my speech was about the workflow. So imagine you have here your money, your budget. If you are low budget, if you don't have a lot of money, you are here. So you are around here. I have no money for color grading. I have no time to spend for correcting picture. So I want to broadcast right after the shooting. So I'm here, Rec 709. So this is, with this camera, it's like if you buy a Ferrari and you just use the first gear, and then you forget second, third, and the other gears. Okay? So this is, okay, it's a choice. I have no artistic need. Okay. Maybe I have a movie to shoot, and I have a little bit of artistic need. I have some idea. Not too much, because I will need a lot of money. Maybe, or not. So Sony said, okay, we have a special curve for you, and special color. It's the Super Gamma, Super Rec 709. So it's easy. You don't have to go through color grading, but you get a nicer picture. This is Hyper Gamma. Then somebody say, yeah, I have very good idea about artistic, and I want to color grade my picture. I want to put my idea into the picture. So the question, okay, you have money for color grading. Do you have a lot of money, or do you have some money? So if you have a lot of money, you can do RAW, non-compressed RAW. And if you don't have any money and you are color grading, you can use log. So that's, this cursor is depending of your artistic need and your money. So you can push here. What is interesting with this camera, they are versatile and they can do whatever you need. And you can personalize this. So if you don't have any time, any money to color grade, okay, I propose you to color grade once. You shoot one day with the log, you take the picture, you sit down with David with Resolve, for example, DaVinci Resolve, you color grade your picture, and you make your own look, and then when you are ready, we will show you at the end of the slide. Okay, I stop, I say, this is a perfect picture for me. I don't want Rec 709, I don't want Hyper Gamma. I just want to make my picture. So David will export my artistic point of view into a file, what we call LUT. We will ingest into the camera, and the camera will make directly from the set the right picture, with or without color grading, because I can choose. If I have at the very end of the shooting I have no more money, I say, okay, no color grading, so I will bake in like bread. I will bake in the LUT, and I will get the picture with the final look. And if I have space and time for color grading, I don't bake in the LUT, so I keep the LUT just for monitoring, to be in security, to have a good night, to take the anxiousness out of me. But I record in log, and then I will use this LUT after. So you choose artistic ID and budget. So you have to see this camera as a schizophrenic camera, and maybe you will become schizophrenic a little bit. So you have to choose. I did put two brain, so a small brain with like the left brain. You have to be with a lot of mathematics, with a lot of processing, so with a lot of destruction, because it's like it's not good. It's not like taking the highway. It's like taking a very small road with limited speed, a lot of processing, and then the camera calls this mode custom, and you are in a broadcast mode. So if you are a fan of paint menu, operation menu, and you want to push all the cursor like we were doing 20 years ago with Betacam or digital Betacam and everything, this is a perfect place for mistake. So, or for broadcasting right after the shooting, to have a ready picture ready after shooting. And you get a picture, but it's usually color saturated and very with a strong contrast. Okay, and you don't have so many shades. If you want to have subtle information in the color and in the luminance, you lose a lot of things. But it's ready for broadcasting. Okay, and you say no, I don't want to make a ready to broadcast picture. I want to be like a painter. I want to make my ID into reality, into a picture. So I switch the camera into Cine Exposure Index, Cine EI, and then this is the highway. I need a big car, and I need a huge hard drive if I'm doing RAW, but if I'm doing log, that's a good point. If I'm doing log, the files are equal. So if I switch into Cine mode and I use log record, I get the same file, the same size. So this is a very good point. And then I have very subtle information in low light. I have a lot of information. I get the 14 stops in that mode, where here maybe I will get 7 stops. So in fact you choose ready to broadcast picture, custom mode. I have around 7-8 stops here. I destroy a lot the picture, but it's ready to broadcast. And if I have color grading after, I switch into Cine mode, and then I need to color grade, but I have a lot of information in terms of color and in terms of contrast. I've got 14 stops. Okay. So we will go. This is the workflow inside workflow from the Cine mode. So the monitoring video is just going through the LUT. So it's like sunglasses. I put sunglasses and I see the picture. Maybe I will see after broadcasting. But I'm recording the black and white picture, the raw picture. And this is the custom mode, where I go through all the processing steps, the gamma, the matrix, the compression, and I get this kind of picture. So from the worst to the best, worst with the Rec 709, and the best in digital positive with the hyper gamma. I show you the menu, How many people already work with the F-Serie from Sony? Can you? Okay, thank you. So these are the strategic menu. So here you have a menu and the shooting mode, the philosophy. Are you in custom or cine mode? Here you are choosing the container. Are you compressing or not a LUT, the file, RAW? Sony has MPEG-4 10 bits 422 codecs, new codec, it's XAVC. You can use it in intra or long GOP. It's a matter of size and the computer to work with. You have the definition of your picture. Are you working in HD, Ultra HD or 4K? The menu for the LUT, monitor LUT, and you have different outputs. You can output through HD SDI, through HDMI, through viewfinder, and you can choose if you want to see the LUT in your viewfinder in the HDMI or HD SDI signal. So for example, if I want to expose the camera, I can switch the camera into cinema. I put a LUT, a Rec 709 into my viewfinder, and I expose my camera as a Rec 709 camera. And the LUT do the difference, the bridge, cross the bridge between the RAW, the log, and the Rec 709, and I get the correct exposed camera. If I want to expose my camera from the log to be sure, then I had, for example, a waveform, and then I will use my gray card, and I will expose my gray card at around with S-Log2 at around 30. If I am using the LUT in the Rec 709, I will expose my camera at 50. This is the standard of Rec 709. 50 for the mid-gray from codec, and my skin is from 50 to 70. Okay, or 45 to 65. And if I'm using S-Log3, which is a setup to mix, for example, Alexa file and Sony file, then you expose at 40. You will find this on some slides. So I can choose to put LUT or not on my viewfinder, and if I want my director to sleep well, I send my signal through HDSDI or HDMI with a LUT on. Here I can choose different profile, different LUT. Sony provide some 1D LUT, and it's like a gamma curve just to take the low light dark and the highlight white to make a contrast picture. Look profile are 3D LUT that can modify contrast and color, and you can ingest 3D LUT into the camera. David will show you an example. I gave him some picture of the baby you saw before, and then he will correct it, and then he will make a LUT. I will inject into the camera, and then I will get my color grading directly inside my camera. And on the F5 and F55, I have the panel for the assistant, and then I can push the button without going into the menu. I can go directly into the monitoring LUT section, and I can switch on off. Yes?
So if you make a LUT and you, from your grading, and you insert it into your camera, you shoot, you get a Rec 709 picture in the end, going from the previous scenario where you make a LUT, you put it in your camera, you shoot a Rec 709, and then you have the same latitude as you would get from grading the raw footage, basically with the same grading settings.
This is very interesting. In fact, the LUT are giving me the same dynamic range if I'm shooting exactly the same scene with the same contrast.
Yeah.
That was the question, for example, with Plus Belle la Vie. I saw that the RTBF is broadcasting Plus Belle la Vie. When they both the cameras they did buy F-55, the people who was managing the camera were coming from the broadcast domain, so they didn't understand the Cine EI mode. They wanted to push all the buttons with the normal gamma, ni, everything, and they got very bad picture. And they were thinking, okay, we have the worst camera in the world. And then I came and I said, okay, no, you just have to understand how to manage it. So we've made together 2 LUTs. We went to the place where they're shooting on set with the people, and we shooted with log. We went outside, we shooted log. We went into Resolve. We spent a few hours to get the Plus Belle la Vie look. So we took the 14 stops into the color grading computer, and then we make it nice for Plus Belle la Vie. And we call it Plus Belle la Vie inside, Plus Belle la Vie outside. And then today, as they don't want to color grade like in an artistic way, they just want to correct 2 shots, just to match 2 shots.
So under the same circumstances, you have the same latitude on your
Yeah,
picture.
exactly. Yeah. If you have 14 stops, you record in log, then you manage with color grading. You are coming from 14 stops. Then, depending of the contrast you add, you limit your. And if you export the LUT directly into the camera, you get the same, almost the same result, because we have always a small delta between the processing of the camera and the processing of the computer, but it's very close. And today, for 3 months, Plus Belle la Vie is shooting with their LUTs, and they don't shoot in log, except, this is a very good question, except when they are shooting into a tunnel where it's dark, and then there is a lot of light behind, and then they go to, here you see main and internal. So this usually when they are baking in the LUT, they put this line off. That means that they don't bake in the LUT, they record in log, because they want to have all the dynamic range, and then but one shot through 1000 shots with the LUT. So it changed the life. If you manage the LUT, it changes your life, because you can have very good, very precise monitoring on set. You have your picture, and you decide if you want to have color grading or not. So this is what I call freedom, because it depends on your budget. Okay, I show you, okay, MLUT on, MLUT off, and that's the point, because this is very important. 80% of people using digital camera are not exposing the camera well. So this is the way we have to expose. If you are using the Rec 709, so the Kodak mid-gray is exposed at 50, and the face is from 50 to 70. So it's very interesting to expose this camera with the Zebra. You put Zebra 1 at 50, for example. You put Zebra 2 at 70, and then when you display the Zebra into your viewfinder, you know that the high light of the face is 70 and the low light is 50, and you have here the mid gray at 50 and this gray at 70, and here the Rec 709 has a good exposure. If you are shooting in log, in S log 3, or this is as oh, there is a switch, you have to switch. This is here and this is here. So S log 2, The mid-gray is 32, around 30. So it looks like underexposed, and it's okay. So that's why a lot of people are exposing S-Log2 as a Rec 709. No, you are overexposed. And the face, the skin, is from 30 to 45. And if you are using, so this is native contrast and color coming from the camera. Even if the F5 and FS7 or FS5 don't fill all the space of the S-gamut because of the Bayer filter, the S-Log3 is trying to match ARRI log-C curve, and then the gray is exposed at 40 and the face from 40 to 50. So if you don't have a waveform, as zebra doesn't go down under 50, you can add a LUT. If you add the LUT Rec 709, then you expose the log through the LUT with the gray at 50. And then if you do this, you have 6.5 stops over, 6.5 stops under. So you are secure. Okay. Monitor LUT. This is a strategic menu. Let's say that this is a correct picture for you. This is your artistic need. So David is exporting the file. So the file will be it's a 3D LUT. That means that we will correct the gamma, the contrast, and we will correct also the color. And then, if you want to make a total blue picture, a total pink picture, it's possible with a 3D LUT. If you export a 1D LUT, you can only work on the gamma, on the contrast. Okay. So he did export. We put a SD card into the computer, and then I open the camera and I put my SD card inside the camera. I go inside the menu, File, and I load the LUT. And then I can go to the LUT menu, here, Monitor LUT. I'm going to say Category 3D User LUT, and then I will select, I can select I have 4 memory in the camera, but I can have 100 LUT in my card. And then what I will see in my viewfinder will be what David did with Resolve. And you have to understand that this LUT, as it's a dot cube, is compatible with this camera, but it's also compatible with different software. For example, if you have Avid, the latest version, you have here source setting. You can ask David because we have Avid software there. So you have source setting in the latest version, and then you have LUT here inside, and you can load LUT, and then you can also manage the look with Avid system. If you have Premiere, you have Lumetri plugin that allow you to load some LUTs, so you can get the same LUT from DaVinci, ingest into the camera, ingest into Avid, ingest into Final Cut Pro X, and in fact you can manage this inside the camera, inside the software, and you can even send the LUT through emails to your color grade technician and say, okay, I've made this LUT on set, could you start with this look, and then I will come at the very end of the color grade to just make some subtle touch. But this is a way to personalize and to go faster during production. So now if you have a question about this theoretical and technical part, we can answer question.